We mentioned Kate Avery from Iona, certainly one of the favorites. Bob, a year ago, we saw her jump out to a big lead for really 80% of this race and falter at the end. That's a strategy, though, I know, for a lot of the runners. They want to get out front and lead.
That's true, and every runner, not every runner, but there are different styles of running, different strengths and weaknesses. And Kate Avery believed last year that she needed to run away from some people in order to win the championship. And you have to respect that. It's a big risk to go out there on your own and try to run away from very talented runners.
The runners have taken their mark, and they are off here in Terre Haute. It's the 2014 NCAA Cross Country National Championships. All the colors of the schools represented, making their way down this front straightaway. It is a 6K race. It is certainly a sprint to the final corner. Bob, as we talked about, the wind right now, it's blowing in the faces of the runners, but you're fresh right now. I wouldn't think that'd be too big of a factor.
Not yet. And this kind of feeling right now is you're running faster than you probably will during the race, other than hopefully the finish. And so you're just kind of cutting through the wind, you're fresh. And if you're in the back, you're just kind of trying to hide behind someone and break it as much as you can.
Yeah, you can see that American flag there. All the runners chasing after that, as many of the coaches and fans are making their way across the track. I've got two distinct packs early on. Bob, I would expect for the beginning portions of this race, unless there's one runner that's a little brave that wants to jump out in front, we're going to stay pretty tight here for the majority of this race.
Well, I think you'll see different stages, but this part of the race, you're just kind of trying to feel yourself out. If you're the fifth runner on your team and you know you need to be at a certain place, you're kind of just trying to be in the right spot. And your coach has probably talked to you about, hey, if I need you to finish around 30th in this race, I don't want you to be 70th at the end of the first straightaway, because it's going to be hard to finish where I need you to finish. And so they're just kind of relaxing, trying to get assessment of their body, who they're around, what the pace feels like, and trying to get into a good rhythm at this point.
How tough is that early on in a pack where there's a lot of legs moving, everybody wants to try to jockey for position? That has to be awfully tough running in a pack, especially if you're in the eye of the storm.
Yeah, it can be. It can be tough, and if the footing is you're unsure of the footing, and you're wobbling all over the place, and you're bumping elbows, and people think cross country is not necessarily a physical sport or contact sport, but it can be sometimes in the middle of the pack.
Down the hill they come here to start this event. As I mentioned, it is a 6K race. The time there in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Appreciate you watching here on NCAA.com. Bob, when do you expect, when you were a runner, when did you want to make your move? Obviously, early on, everyone's feeling out the pack, but in a 6K race, I know it's a distance race. It's cross-country. You're running for a great distance, but 6K is really not that far in terms of what some of these other they run earlier in the season.
Right, exactly, and it's a middle distance race, I think, is how I would classify 6 kilometers. It depends again on the athlete, and if you feel like, for example, if Kate Avery feels like she needs to get away from some of the faster finishers, she might try to test them real early after the first kilometer, after the second kilometer, or if she feels like she can get away from them with a kilometer to go or 2 kilometers to go, she might do that. Whereas, Shelby Houlihan of Arizona State, who has great finishing speed, 1,500-meter national champion, she might just try to run on someone's shoulder until the absolute latest that she can.
You can see Shelby Houlihan right there in the middle in the black, number 2, and out front for Iona, it is Kate Avery. Bob, we saw her jump out to a big lead. It didn't falter too much. She wasn't able to bring home the national championship, but still it was an impressive run. She was able to keep that strong pace and came home with a 3rd here in Terre Haute a year ago. How big is that experience factor coming back to Terre Haute here for a second?
I think it's big. I think you understand the course, the nuances of the course, whether there's a hill or a rise that maybe you need to get through and at a better pace or a better power, I guess is the way I would call it. So Kate is not pushing the pace right now. She's in the lead, or she's up in the front of the pack. She looks comfortable. She feels like she needs to be where she wants to be, or she is where she wants to be. But she's not making a move to run away from people yet as you watch this.
As we mentioned, it's been a long season for many of these cross-country runners. Many of these same runners that competed today competed in the pre-nationals, Bob. We take a look at those statistics. That was run on October 18th right here in Terre Haute. Some familiar names there towards the top. Georgetown, Oregon, Michigan State noticeably absent. They did not compete this year.
Right, and what a great event to come and experience the course, understand what it's going to be like if you qualify for the NCAA championships. Again, for me, especially running cross country was also about the course and understanding the nuances of it, and where I needed to go hard and where I could recover and relax. And to have that experience at a race like Pre-Nats can be valuable.
See Kate Avery up front, again, Shelly Houlihan a few positions back. We see both of the Michigan State runners up there as well, Leah O'Connor and Rachel Schulis. They've been very strong. Michigan State focused on that team title. Where is the thought process for some of these teams? Obviously, they've got great runners that want to compete, but obviously that team championship is something that I think they have set their goals on before the season.
Oh yeah, especially a team like Michigan State, Georgetown. It's a special experience to have a great team and be part of a great team. Win or lose today, they'll remember that team aspect for forever. Now Kate seems to be pushing a little bit. As you can see, when you look at the pack and you start to see it string out like that a little bit, that means the pace has changed. Okay, and Kate has accelerated a little bit. I don't know if this is a move that she'll just try to maintain for the rest of the race, or if she's playing with the tempo up and down to test the competitors.
Kate Avery from Iona certainly likes to get out front and lead. She's only run 2 races, as we talked about, but was incredibly impressive in those 2 races. She ran a 19:15 in her conference meet, followed it up by winning the Northeast Regional by 23 seconds over second place Lee Westfall, who's expected to be a top 10 runner today as well. So you see Kate Avery out front. Also got a great opportunity about 30-45 seconds to go, Bob, to see the fans lined up all along the sides of the course, and they get a pretty good workout today as well, as they run apart all over across this course to get good views of these runners out.
They of course do, and this cross country course is set up brilliantly for spectators. You can see so much of it, even if you stand in one place, but you can go 200 or 300 meters in any direction and see almost the whole thing.
As we mentioned, Avery up front. There's your first 2,000-meter split as this pack starts to thin out a little bit. No one's really jumped out ahead and become the rabbit, so to speak, to lead this pack. But Kate Avery right now in that top position. We see right behind Arkansas's very talented runner, Dominique Scott. She was 28 here a year ago, but has made some big strides. And right now she's chasing Kate Avery for the lead here, Bob. When you're in second, you're running down that lead. Are you just feeling her out, picking when you want your spot to make a move?
Yeah, you're just trying to stay close and feed off of her rhythm, the leader's rhythm, and just kind of, that she probably knows that Kate Avery's a front runner, wants to run away with this, and if she can just stay on her shoulder as the race goes on, it potentially makes Kate a little bit more nervous and press a little harder when she doesn't want to, and you can be to your advantage.
Saw the very talented Emma Bates from Boise State. She's right there in the 3rd position. She was the 2013 national runner-up. A year ago, she lost to Abby D'Agostino by just 3 seconds. Many felt like she's really starting to hit her stride here in 2014. Back-to-back Mountain West Conference titles, and Boise State actually swept the men's and women's title in 2014. So Emma Bates, a very experienced runner, and she's right there. She ran, toe-to-toe with Kate Avery a year ago, 2nd and 3rd. As we talked about, D'Agostino, she graduated, so obviously they see the opportunity to come here to Terre Haute 1 year later and possibly win a national title. Yeah,
absolutely, and you can see this starting to break up even more now. 3 front runners breaking away from the mid-pack. That includes Leah O'Connor, Michigan State, and I can't see Iowa State's runner in there, if that's Crystal Nelson or
very
not,
possibly
but it probably is. But Kate is really pushing right now, and trying to get away from probably especially Dominique Scott of Arkansas right now, who's also a great 1,500-meter runner and has good leg speed. I'm not sure Kate has looked around as I watch the race and seen exactly who's on her shoulder, but she also knows this is how she runs races. She's not going to change it just because it's the most important. In fact, she shouldn't change it because it's the most important race of the year. She should keep doing what's brought her success all season long.
There was a good gap, a good look at the gaps from the leaders, about the front 10 that have kind of pulled away. Here's our 2,000-meter split scores. We saw it for the individuals, now for the teams. And Arkansas, surprisingly, right now, I know it's early, Bob, but that's a name that I don't think we really expected. We expected to see Michigan State, Iowa State up there, but Arkansas early on showing strong. And as we talked about, Dominique Scott doing a great job leading that charge in second.
Right, and it is early. I think the name that's surprisingly missing from there is Georgetown right now. But it is early. Michigan State is in great position at 112 points, only 12 points behind Arkansas. They've got such a strong pack that I expect them to, well, they're in great position to probably where they want to be right now.
Yeah, honestly, we were trying to find teams that maybe had a chance to upset, but clearly Michigan State the favorite, and we saw it as Leo Connor and Rachel Schulis right there in that second pack running strong. Right now, a 3-runner breakaway. It is Kate Avery up front for Iona, and she's being chased down by Dominique Scott, who was in second. She's just been passed by Emma Bates. She's moved into second. Bob, you mentioned you hadn't seen Kate Avery peek over the shoulder. When you're the leader, do you do that from time to time, or do you have to remind yourself forward thinking all the way?
I think you mostly want to think, if you're the leader, you're thinking forward, just running away from people. You have a game plan, you run into your strengths and hopefully against your against your competitor's weaknesses. But if someone stays on your shoulder long enough, you kind of want to know who it is.
On the podium a year ago, Kate Avery from Iona, representing her school here in Terre Haute with a nice 15 to 20 length lead here at the Laverne Gibson course as we are creeping up on the 11-minute mark. This 6K race, Bob, we talked about, usually run just under 20 minutes for these top women.
Yeah, she's a little bit over halfway, and this is a strong move. This is her move to win the race, and I think unless she comes back to them like she did last year a little bit, no one's going to probably catch her by accelerating themselves.
As you mentioned, at about the halfway point, just got a good close-up shot. The body language, you like what you're seeing from Kate Avery?
I do. She looks relaxed. She looks in control at this point. And I don't see any signs of distress at this stage.
Uphill portion of this course. This is the nice thing, the wind at the back of these runners. As we talked about, the conditions have been pretty solid here. And further back, here's the pack. And this is really, I mean, we focus on the individuals going for that national title. But, Bob, this is where the national title is really won for the teams, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you can see Michigan State in the bright green right there. I think that's Michigan State. Maybe no, it's the Ducks. Sorry, it's the Ducks. But you can see that pick them out in the pack. So in the pack like this is where, like you said, the team championship won, and seconds can be 10, 15 places at the finish line.
Of course, one position equals 1 point in that final calculation as they cross the finish line. So the pack going to thin out a little bit. Up front, though, boy, look at Kate Avery. And as we look back from this shot, Bob, you can't even see second place. This is really her strength. Early in the race, starting to pull away. She looks incredibly strong right now with fans on both sides of her, trying to do what she failed to do a year ago. Came up short, finished third here at Terre Haute in the Nationals, going for a national title. And as you mentioned, those arms are pumping, those legs are planted in the ground. She really looks strong early on. When do you want to turn it on? Because I know she's probably conserving a little bit of energy and want to have something for the end of this race.
Absolutely. She looks really, you can tell by the rhythm. She has a good rhythm going right now, and she's, her face looks somewhat distressed, but that's just breathing because she's running fast. But she has good rhythm, and I would venture to bet that she's remembering a little bit of last year's race. So she's not, she doesn't have the throttle all the way on yet. She's got a little in reserve, so she can press hard at the finish.
2/3 of the way through, and the difference is 8.3 seconds as you see the 4,000 meter splits starting to come in. It is Avery first, Emma Bates of Boise State second. Right behind her, Sarah DeSanza, who's moved up into third from Wisconsin. There's Rachel Schulis in fourth, and Dominique Scott has slipped back to fifth. As we take a look at that team battle, Crystal Nelson from Iowa State, she was expected to contend for the win. She's in sixth, and further back, Rachel Johnson, Shelby Houlihan, Kate Moan, and Elise Cranny from Stanford round out the top 10. All right, 2/3 of the way, if you're back in that pack, I know you have to self-consciously know where the other runners are for the teams. Do you start pushing right here, really trying to pick up, especially if you're further in the back, because every spot means so much, Bob?
Right, and I think it depends on how a coach coaches their team. Some might say, hey, we're just going to pick off people as much as we can. Some might say, hey, at 4 kilometers, which we're just passing now, that's when we're going to really start moving and trying to gain spots and gain points, basically.
What role does a cross-country coach play right now when the race is going on? I would assume they've got to be all over the course as well.
Right. They're trying to. They know their team really well, and so they probably know that I really need to be at 4 kilometers or 3 kilometers or 5 kilometers, because I know that's where my team needs me to remind them that this is where it happens for us. And so they're running around. And when you're an athlete and you're used to your coach all year long or year after year, you can pick that coach's voice out from thousands of people in the crowd. You can hear your coach yelling at you among everyone else. So it's pretty easy for them to get their message across.
Creeping up on the 15-minute mark, it has been a dominating performance so far for Iona's Kate Avery. At last check, the last 4,000-meter split, it was 8.3 seconds. And Bob, I know it's hard to tell just from the monitor, but I don't see anyone behind her right now. I would guess that deficit is continuing to grow. I
think it is. And you can also tell a lot by watching athletes run downhill. And Kate continues, I keep saying that she continues to look good. Continues to look good as she runs downhill and with great rhythm. That's the chase pack right there.
You're done for a while now.
All right, the team score is starting to come in, and Bob, no surprise, we're starting to see Georgetown creep up there. Iowa State's had a good meet so far, but Michigan State right now with a 40-point advantage. They seem to be in control right now for this team title.
They are. They're in the position they want to be in. 40 points, 40 places is not a lot in the middle of the pack. And you can imagine over the last 300 meters or 400 meters straightaway of this course, a lot. You can go by 10, 15 people on that straightaway if you're finishing strong and change the team score dramatically.
Yeah, it's a great look right there as some of these runners traverse this course in front of the fans. I mean, we've got packs of 10 or 15. So, yeah, you get one runner that decides to turn it on and pass 10 or 15 of those runners. Those team scores can change dramatically. It is still Kate Avery up front from Iona, a little bit further back. There's another group. We see an Iowa State runner, a Michigan State runner in there as well. Those have been the programs all season long, and no real surprise to see Michigan State up there. What makes that program so good up in Michigan State? I mean, obviously, they're certainly used to racing in the colder weather, and really, they've had a great year, Bob.
They have had a great year, and coaching and tradition and just you feed off each other's success. And when you have a culture of a team culture that everyone's for each other and they want each other to be successful, it feeds off itself. And then everyone raises their game, and you get performances in teams like Michigan State.
We are live on NCAA.com. This is the 2014 Women's Cross Country National Championships here in Terre Haute, Indiana. On your screen is Kate Avery from Iona, and she is basically in a different area code because she has checked out on this field. It has been a dominant performance. Bob, she kind of surged her way to the front of the pack in that front straightaway, and then as it pulled away 5 or 6 away from the pack, and really she separated herself from the rest of this crew. At this point, with just a few minutes left as they're closing in on that finish line, does she start to peek behind her and realize that maybe, as we take a good look at the gap, that no one's even close?
She does, probably. And she's also hearing from the crowd or coaches, you've got 10 seconds, you've got 12 seconds. Now, when you hear those, sometimes you're like, I wonder if they're using their watch properly or not. You don't always trust it, but she's hearing that feedback as she's running. And it looks like she has this in the bag, really, unless something dramatic happens.
Yeah, there's the battle for second, probably the best one on the track, but Kate Avery out front and in total control as she makes her way around what is really the final portion of this course. And Bob, as she passes by the boxes, now you look straight forward, you can see that finish line ahead.
That's right, and you can see the gap if you look back to the gator back there. Wind in her face right now, pumping the arms, getting those legs moving in good rhythm, but she still looks good. She's not slowing dramatically, and she's going to finish this off as the NCAA champion.
And the course record here was 19:28, 19 minutes, 28 seconds, I believe, from Sally Kipyego from Texas Tech. That was in 2008, so Kate Avery trying to chase down that. It's been an impressive season for her so far, trying to find that final kick. She's only run 2 races this year, Bob, but here in her third, it has certainly been a dominating performance, as really I would feel those lungs was really starting to burn here towards the end of this race.
Absolutely, and from the monitor, it looks like the gap is smaller than it actually is, but Kate's got a comfortable lead here and she sees that finish line in front of her, and she's excited, I'm sure, about becoming the NCAA champion.
The thousands of fans that have made their way out to the Laverne Gibson cross-country course here in Terre Haute, Indiana, have lined across that front start-finish line. Here comes Kate Avery. It's going to be awfully close to that course record, but she will cruise across the finish line. She is the 2014 NCAA Division I cross-country champion, 1931. A big smile on her face as she has claimed first place here in Terre Haute. A great run by Sarah DeSanza. She comes across the line about 8.3 seconds back in second. Emma Bates will come up just short again. Second a year ago. She is third this year as she gives Kate Avery a hug, a congratulatory hug. The rest of the runners come across the line. Great run for Rachel Schulis, fourth for Michigan State as we keep our eye on that team title. Rachel Johnson makes her way across the line with a top five finish, for the Baylor Bears. Dominique Scott, Crystal Nelson, and Katie Moen. A couple Iowa State runners there in 7th and 8th. Shelby Houlihan comes across in 9th. So, Bob, as we watch the rest of these runners come across the line, I would think Michigan State, Iowa State, probably the two teams we got to keep our eye on for the rest of those runners coming across for this team title.
Absolutely. When you have two strong front runners like Iowa State just put across the finish line, you're in a good position. Michigan State is so deep in their 3, 4, and 5. It'll be interesting to see them come across.
Yeah, you see Lindsey Clark in 11th, and Leah O'Connor comes across in 17th. So that's three Michigan State runners right there.
That's it'll be interesting to watch the score, because that's I think a little bit of a surprise to have Leah O'Connor at 17th and her teammate in 4th. They haven't been doing that most of the year. It's been flopped the other way around. So,
of course, all of those results are unofficial because, as you see, boy, they're coming across 4 or 5 wide. But we got word that there's been at least 4 Michigan State runners across the line. So we'll let that play out a little bit. But, Bob, let's talk about Kate Avery. Boy, top to bottom, just an absolutely dominating performance here in Terre Haute.
Absolutely, and she started off the race, the first kilometer, just being in control up at the front, but not really pushing hard. And when she decided that it was time to put the screws to everyone, she did it in a really smooth and subtle way and just ran away from people.
And Bob, I'm blown away. The body language, she looks fine. She looks like she could run another 6K right there.
Always feels great when you win.
Came across the line with a big smile on her face. Really a great accomplishment. I think a lot of people looked at her as a favorite. She only ran 2 races. How fresh do you think she was compared to some of the other runners that have really been running all season?
Well, I think she was training hard, most likely, even though she wasn't racing. She ran the Commonwealth Games late in the summer, and when that happens, it's a different. You want to build up properly again, your body and physiologically, and so she took that time. Instead of racing, she trained, and so maybe a little bit fresher, but really about the same.
The rest of the pack, making their way across the finish line now. Kate Avery getting congratulatory hugs from a lot of her Iona teammates. They look like they're a little tired chasing after her because the pace she put up, as we talked about, just 5 or 6 seconds off of the course record here at the Laverne Gibson Championship course.